Can we just talk about the president and what he posted this morning, which I'm just going to read
one?
it. Yeah, okay. Very good question. This is about air traffic controllers. I'm going to read it. All air traffic controllers must get back to work now. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked. For those air traffic controllers who were great patriots and didn't take any time off for the Democratic shutdown hoax, I will be recommending a bonus of $10,000 per person for distinguished service to our country. For those that did nothing but complain and took time off, even though everyone knew they would be paid in full shortly into the future, I am not happy with you. You didn't step up to help the USA against fake Democratic attack that was only meant to hurt our country. Just keep that on the screen for 1 second as I go to you, Michelle. I think it's probably an educated guess that the people who didn't go to work weren't protesting. They didn't go to work because they had to find other ways to put food on the table for their children or to pay their rent or their mortgages. It's not because they just didn't feel like working. And if you look at something like this, it just is kind of snatching political defeat from the jaws of victory.
Right. And that's something Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, said throughout when he was having these news conferences at airports. He was very grateful for people who did show up, but he was understanding of these air traffic controllers who didn't show up because they were trying to find other ways to take care of their families. I think the one part of that, the president's message, it's a big if that $10,000 bonus ever materializes into legislation or if that gets paid out. But it is something that will resonate with the traveling public because they see it as, if they don't know why some of these workers didn't show up and they think, you should be rewarded for continuing to show up for this hard job. That could be something that could potentially be a message that resonates with the broader public, not people who are sympathetic to federal workers right now.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, was on State of the Union yesterday explaining that especially some of the new people, they just don't make enough money to be able to miss a paycheck or two or three.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think even for people who may not be super sympathetic to federal workers, I think most people understand that if you work, you need to get paid, right? And that if you miss a paycheck and you have kids in daycare or something like that, they're not like, oh, well, you could just pay us another day. Oh, we don't care. Like, yes, there was help for federal workers, but like, it's still hard. And like, Giant or whoever, wherever you get your groceries from, they want their money then. And so I think that's very understandable.
And why didn't Trump offer this at the beginning of the shutdown?
Yes,
Too?
yes,
it's
a surprise.
Yes.
Well, and it's also the way to make the civil service into a partisan thing. You didn't stand up for us against the Democrats. Like, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of air traffic controllers who are conservatives, right?
Yes, and it is not a partisan thing to want to feed your family.
Yes.
President Trump is lashing out at air traffic controllers. In a social media post, the president demanding that all air traffic controllers must get back to work now. He also threatened to dock the pay of those who called out during the shutdown and give a $10,000 bonus to the workers he calls patriots who didn't miss any days. Despite progress on ending the standoff, nearly 3,000 flights have already been canceled for today and tomorrow, as staffing shortages have been reported at 17 airports across the country. CNN's Pete Montine joins us now live. Pete, bring us up to speed on the situation at airports today and how quickly things might return to normal.
Well, even though there is light at the end of the tunnel for getting to a shutdown deal, it does not seem that we will be totally out of the woods when it comes to these staffing shortages we have seen at airports across the country. The list today keeps going up and up. 25 different FAA facilities with understaffing issues today. We've seen staffing shortages in Atlanta at the TRACON there, the approach control facility there that's key for low altitude flights, Detroit and New York. Just add those to the list of the places that have had staffing shortages over the weekend. From Friday to Sunday, we saw about 150 staffing shortages at air traffic control facilities nationwide. 50 different facilities. We're talking all the way from San Juan to Anchorage, every major airline hub, and that pushed the number of cancellations higher and higher. We saw about 1,500 cancellations in the U.S. On Saturday, according to FlightAware. That number nearly doubled on Sunday, making it the worst day, fourth worst day, for flight cancellations since the start of 2024. It seems that things are really sort of in a perpetual motion machine and getting worse and worse. And today we've seen about 1,800 delays. 900 of them are because of the Trump administration mandated cuts to flights. You've seen the number for tomorrow there, 995. Those are airlines now loading in their cancellations for tomorrow as mandated by the Trump administration to siphon off some of the stress on the national airspace system and air traffic controllers who continue to work unpaid during this shutdown. This new statement by President Trump on Truth Social may be only insult to injury, given the fact that they are about to get another $0 paycheck to hit their bank accounts come tomorrow. I want you to listen now to Union Chief Nick Daniels. He's the head of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, and he says that controllers have really been stuck in the middle of this shutdown game since it started 41 days ago. Listen.
Now, history will remember who is responsible for the shutdown. The public and media will debate who won, but we all know who carried the weight of it and who has to pick up the pieces when it finally ends. It's us, the federal workforce, that has been the rope in this game of tug of war.
So even when this shutdown ends, controllers will get back pay for work they have done during the shutdown. Remember, they've been continuing to show up to work without pay for 41 days now. Some big questions now about whether or not there could be a bill in Congress to make it so that when the government shuts down again, and many controllers have been through more than one shutdown now, that they can continue to get paid. A lot of issues here when it comes to air traffic control staffing shortages. And even when the government reopens, the U.S. is still short between 1,000 and 2,000 controllers, according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and the FAA is scrambling to hire more. But Duffy says this makes it even harder. The threat of these shutdowns makes it even harder to lure people in to what is always already a very stressful career. Boris.
Yeah, this was an issue well before the shutdown. It seems like it will linger after the shutdown ends, once it does. Pete Montine, thank you so much for the reporting.
Joining us now is David Riley. He was an air traffic controller for years. He is now retired. I think there are only one other group of people that are more tired of this than the travelers, and that is the air traffic controllers. They are having to work under extremely difficult conditions, high stress conditions, without being paid. You called that mandatory scheduling cutback of 10%, which was announced by the Trump administration, of flights, kind of ludicrous. Why is that?
Yeah, good morning, Sarah. I appreciate you having me on. I want to give a big shout out to my fellow Marines because today's the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. So happy birthday, Marines. The flight reduction is completely arbitrary. I don't think it's necessary. The FAA has plans and procedures to handle sectors that are heavier or towers that are heavier through traffic management initiatives to reduce the amount of traffic that's going into one particular airport or a sector in the en route environment, that kind of thing. So just to arbitrarily come out with a number of saying you have to reduce your flights by 10% or 15% by Friday or 20, or we're going to shut the whole thing down by Thanksgiving, I think is completely ludicrous in the fact that the FAA has mechanisms to do that, to keep the safe skies in those sectors that need it.
Can you just give us a sense of what the stress is like as a controller, and add on to that the fact that they are not being paid and there are fewer and fewer people that are doing the job?
Yeah, prior to the shutdown, the controllers that have been working post-pandemic are under a lot of overtime. They've been working tons of overtime. They're extremely overworked and underpaid. And now you throw that the shutdown fact that they're not getting paid at all, it creates a huge distraction. And when you show up for work as an air traffic controller, you have to be on your A game, not only mentally but physically, to handle that type of stress and the work that you have to do day in and day out. And if you are distracted by trying to figure out how to pay your bills at home because you're not getting paid and yet being forced to work, that adds a whole nother level to it. And it needs to be addressed going forward on how this is handled in future situations like this.
Yeah, I mean, do you get the sense that the controllers, people say, oh, well, they're calling in sick, but they have bills to pay as well. Are you hearing that controllers are having to do other jobs while they're also doing their main job at the same time, and what that means to the controllers and the job that they're having to do to try to make sure that flights come in and go out safely?
Yeah, many are doing exactly that. Picking up quick and easy jobs, rideshare drivers, food delivery, security guard jobs, something simple that they can bounce in and bounce out of. Obviously, they don't have time to forge a second career while working another career and not getting paid. And controllers have a contractual obligation to call out sick, if you will, or call out fatigued because they're not on their A game. So if they're not getting an adequate number of hours of sleep to be rested when they come back to work, they have an obligation, not only contractually, but morally, to say, hey, I'm not 100% on my A game today. So I probably shouldn't be talking to airplanes. I may be distracted. I may be fatigued, and it could, cause a situation that is unfavorable for everybody.
Yeah, well, I've got family members who are Marines too, so hoorah to you. And thank you so much for joining us this morning, David. Appreciate it.